You'll find Adobe Premiere Pro in the Programs menu in the Adobe Master Collection folder. When the interface opens up, click on New Project and you'll be faced with this New Project dialog box. What you need to do now is make sure that you browse to a specific location to save your work. We'll have a look at that on the next screen. It is very important that you navigate to a location where you know you can find your work and where you want to organise your project using the folder menu from the left hand side here. What you must do is make sure that you create a new folder for your project if you haven't already done so. You click on Select Folder once you're happy with your location. That takes you back to the previous dialog screen where we can rename the file and click on OK. Our next window is Sequence Settings. For the way we're working, we can ignore this and simply click on OK. This will reveal the work area. So a quick introduction. This panel on the left is our Assets panel. That's where we'll be putting any video, audio or image content that we want to work with. This folder here has 4 tabs across the top. We'll mainly be using Source, where we do a rough edit. Later on in more advanced tutorials we'll be looking at the effects controls. This window here has a few panels. Usually we set it to the effects panel, where we can grab video transitions and so on. Again, we'll look at those in another tutorial. Our main work area is the timeline. This monitor displays whatever's on the timeline. As the timeline is blank, this monitor is black. At the bottom right are some tools we might be using, mainly the arrow tool and perhaps this little razor tool, which we can use for cutting content on the timeline. So the first thing we need to do is get some assets into the asset panel. So this is the folder, Adobe Toots, where I've set up my project file. It's very important that any assets that you want to work with are also located in this file. So here's a video file that's been located and some image files that I've placed here. This purple proj file is actually the project file, so when we want to reopen our work we open that one. Adobe will also set up 1 or 2 default folders in here. Leave those alone and don't delete them. What we simply do now is left click and drag our assets across to the assets panel. They will get an import message and then our new assets will appear in this panel here. In this view we can see we have not 1 but 2 monitor areas. What I've done is double click on the new video file and that reveals it in the source window, ready for a rough edit. It's not on the timeline yet, so the timeline window is blank. So if we take a closer look at that source window, we can see we have a play button, some shuttle backwards and forward tools and so on and so forth. Now the plan with this is to get this blue cursor to the starting point of our video. Where do we want it to start from in the timeline? And then we select this little bracket here called Mark It In. We'll then move the blue cursor to the end of our desired area and use the corresponding bracket Mark Out. Notice our selection is in a lighter grey colour on the working area. We can grab the marked area on the bracket tool and drag that backwards or forwards to change both the in and out positions at any point. So the next job is to get this selected sequence area onto our timeline. If we want both the video and audio, we simply left click and hold and drag across to the timeline. As we can see here, it goes into the timeline. The timeline cursor is at the start, so we can see the opening frame in the timeline area. We can repeat this process with images and video content. So in this example to the bottom, I have included this JPEG, an image file. I've placed it in the source window, I've set its length, dragged it next to our original video, so you can see there we have 2 elements on our timeline. That will build through a repeated process, adding more video and images across the timeline. And that's the basics of editing. Good luck.